Hello and thank you for joining us. You're watching Addis News Hour with the news. I'm Tabitha John. Stay with us. Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed held consultative discussions with U.S. National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan in Washington. The Prime Minister's office recently stated that the two officials have discussed over a host of issues, including the implementation of the cessation of hostilities, the political and economic reform initiative of the government, and the way forward on revitalizing the historical bilateral relationship. Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed was awarded the Outstanding African Leadership Award in recognition of the Green Legacy Initiative. In a special event under the theme Africa, the Urgency of a Global Mobilization, organized by the American Academy of Achievement and the Global Hope Coalition in Washington, D.C., Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed was awarded the Outstanding African Leadership Award in recognition of the Green Legacy Initiative. As the global community continues to be confronted with the adverse effects of climate change, Abiy says Ethiopia chooses to undertake bold and practical solutions to address the issue. Tigis Sarnisa has the following account.
Following to Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed being awarded the Outstanding African Leadership Award in recognition of the Green Legacy Initiative, the Premier said Ethiopia chose to undertake bold and practical solutions to address climate change as the global community continues to be confronted with its adverse effects.
Like other parts of the world, Ethiopia has also been confronted with climate change and environmental degradation. Such effects have contributed to flooding, soil erosion, deforestation, and biodiversity loss. Therefore, countering climate change and paving the way for green growth has been one of our key development objectives.
In his acceptance statement for the Outstanding African Leadership Award, Abiy thanked the American Academy of Achievement and the Global Hope Coalition for extending a hand of friendship to the African continent and for recognizing Ethiopia's Green Legacy Initiative as an African success story. The Premier also stressed that Africa is filled with many success stories, past, present, and future. The perspective that African countries are net producers of problems that always require external assistance is an outdated one, Abiy said, adding, therefore, great appreciation to the organizers for lighting a torch on the continent's net production of solutions. According to the Premier, in 2019, the Green Legacy Initiative was launched in Ethiopia as a proudly African nation and as a government navigating turbulent times. Ethiopians from corner to corner rose up armed with seedlings to cover the nation green.
ችግኝ መትከል በቢሊዮን በሚቆጠር ቁጥር ኢትዮጵያ ከጀመረች ከሁለት ዓመት በኋላ በርከት ያሉ ሀገራት እንደዚህ አይነት ፕሮጀክቶች ቀርጸው ችግኝ እንትከል ማለት ጀምረዋል። ይህ በጎ ተጽዕኖ በጣም አስፈላጊ ነው።
Prime Minister noted that the act of planting a tree is an act of faith by a young and hopeful nation. In most of Ethiopia, June to August is the rainy season, where the air cools, the dust settles, the rain quenches the thirst of the land after 9 months of heat, and the soil softens, making it hospitable for young fragile seedling to establish roots. He said in the course of these 3 months, the Green Legacy Initiative invites people to come out of their homes and places of work, walk out in unison to a field with a seedling in hand, dig a little hole in the ground, and place the seedling. 4 years into the implementation of the Green Legacy Initiative, it was able to have mobilized 25 million Ethiopians across the nation to plant 25 billion seedlings, equivalent to 250 seedlings per Ethiopian. This impact could be equated to removing 64 million gasoline-powered cars from the road for a whole year. Today, Ethiopia's Green Legacy Initiative is the most extensive afforestation and reforestation program next to the Amazon, Abiy indicated. Besides the tree planting, afforestation and reforestation efforts, Ethiopia has also put over 700,000 acres existing biodiversity in carbon-rich natural forests under a sustainable participatory forest management scheme. By 2022, the Green Legacy Initiative has fostered a flourishing national green culture, tripling the number of seedling nurseries to more than 121,000, creating more than 750,000 jobs, mostly for women and youth, and generating 1.3 billion Ethiopian birr in income. Seedlings have also been shared with neighboring countries to bolster regional cooperation for transboundary ecosystem management. He added that the Green Legacy Initiative will certainly contribute towards removing the equivalent of hundreds of millions of tons of carbon dioxide from the atmosphere and reduce deforestation. This implies Ethiopia's significant contribution to the global climate change mitigation efforts. Moreover, he elaborated that Ethiopia's tangible contribution to the overall global afforestation and reforestation pledge is impressive by any standard, but even more so when it has been financed primarily by domestic resources and efforts. Building on this success, Ethiopia plans to restore an additional 22 million acres of degraded land by 2030, he said, adding, quote-unquote, "We're also developing a green fund and will pursue carbon trading schemes to help raise additional financing," quote-unquote. As a nation, there might be differences do exist in the way that interprets the past and the way it envisions the future. But Ethiopians are united in the hope to have for the next generation in our planet, the statement further added. The Premier also underscored that Ethiopians are aspired to reverse deforestation and build a green society in Ethiopia and Africa, adding that there will be no doubt that the Green Legacy story will motivate a global mobilization towards reconciling the modern civilization with the planet and ecosystems.
There is no doubt that future generations will reap the benefits of the seeds we are sowing today through the Green Legacy Initiative. Life, after all, begins as a seed. This is Ethiopia's Green Legacy, our legacy, your legacy.
Welcome back. The United Nations Population Fund, UNFPA, handed over 10 high-spec ambulances procured with funding from the governments of Canada, Ireland and Japan to 4 regions of Ethiopia. Of the total 10 ambulances, 3 ambulances were transferred to the Tigray and Amhara regions each, while 2 each were given to Afar and Benishangul Gumuz regions. UNFPA representative Suzanne Mandong signed the ambulances transfer agreement with Health Minister Dr. Lia Taddese in the presence of the ambassadors of the 3 countries and representatives of the regions. The support of the 3 governments has been very critical to UNFPA's efforts in meeting the increasing demands for life-saving emergency, sexual and reproductive interventions in humanitarian settings. The British Consul Ethiopia office colorfully celebrated its 80th anniversary in Addis Ababa today. The ceremony was opened by a speech from Consul's country director, Netzanet Demos. During the occasion, the country director underscored that British Consul has played its paramount importance in cultural and educational opportunities, working in more than 100 countries of the world, including Ethiopia. Kasahun Chani reports.
The British Council is currently celebrating its 18th anniversary. Throughout the years, they have helped people to gain skills, confidence, and connections they are looking for to realize their potential and participate in strong and inclusive communities by maintaining an uninterrupted presence for 8 decades, despite the many changes both in the UK and Ethiopia. The British Council has demonstrated its commitment to long-term partnerships, that is, according to the top senior staff members.
We work in the areas of education, English language, arts and culture. And then, of course, ever since we came to Ethiopia, which is in 1942, right after the end of the Italian occupation and the return of Emperor Haile Selassie, we've been, involved in a number of activities that benefited, the nation, that benefited generation of Ethiopians. Yeah. For example, I think in the early days, our work was, I think the highlight of our work was the Wingate School. So as you know, there was a lot of damage caused in Ethiopia because of the Italian occupation, and the emperor was quite keen to rebuild Ethiopia, and he wanted to invest in education. So, I mean, reached out to the British Council, and we supported, set up the Wingate School. We ran it for about 37 years. Not only that, out of it, of course, came in a lot of knowledge and exchange among British teachers who came out here primarily to work on the Wingate School, but some of them then went on to help with the Menelik Secondary School. Some of them went to help with the, the other schools, and also even to the Addis Ababa University. And I think I'm right to say that, in the early days, most of the master's programs at Addis Ababa University were opened because of the partnership the British Council facilitated with UK counterparts, yeah?
According to the top senior staff members, in spite of the change that took place in Ethiopia and the UK over the years, what has not changed in the need for people, organizations and nations to make quality connections in a more interconnected world.
At the heart of everything that we do, it's culture and creating the connections, creating platforms, making sure that we're upskilling, building the capacity. So whether it's in education, whether it's in arts and culture, whether it's in English language, it's about globalizing education. In the future, our role continues to evolve, but at the heart of it, again, culture, cultural exchange, and that upskilling and creating the platforms for connections and opportunities. Creating opportunities is at the heart of the work that we're doing. So moving forward, that's not going to change. Whether government changes, whether priorities change, at the heart of it, for us, that is the main thing, is that we are creating opportunities. We're helping the youth reach their full potential. We're helping the network and people that we work with reach their full potential. And we're creating the different platforms of exchange between the UK and Ethiopia.
They also noted that working with generations of Ethiopians in the areas of English, education, art and culture, the British Council has proved that it can meet the changing needs of young people in a rapidly changing world, including professional development and people-to-people ties.
Benefits from the British Council was getting opportunities. I was traveling to different countries, including UK, and I went to Manchester and Hull and London for trainings and other exposures to work with other teachers and to learn from experience, and also share my experience and my culture into different countries. Besides, and we were sharing our cultural songs and our cultural stories to different countries in the UK, to different places in the UK, and also in different parts of Africa. For example, I've been to South Africa, Johannesburg, and Kenya, and Kigali, and Rwanda, and Tanzania. In all these exposures, what I have noticed is working with different culture, working with different people. You learn a lot about those community, and also you learn so many experiences, people doing the same thing in different way. For example, our teaching methodology here in UK is totally different.
The whole of the 8 years, we worked with the Ministry of Education. One of our strongest partnerships was on the education sector. But when you take the, like the arts, so, I can go on and on and on about the education one, but let me, I think, state something about the arts. So when the British Council started its work in Ethiopia, it used 16mm videos to actually show Shakespeare plays and other plays, to students in the different schools. And this happened throughout Ethiopia. I think that by itself had a great impact with the people of, with the students at that point of time, in enlarging their visions, in looking at, new technologies and so on and so forth. And this continued. And some years later on, again, this is actually more connected with education rather than the arts, but the British Council introduced the Internet Cafe, just recently. But before that, it liaised with the Education Mass Media Agency to start the first radio and the first television
The British Council is a United Kingdom's international organization for cultural relations and educational opportunities that's working over 100 countries across the world in the fields of arts and culture, English language, education, and civil society.
In business news, the Ethiopian Airlines Group has announced that preparations are underway to start the construction of the new Airport City mega project in the current fiscal year, the CEO of the airline said. It has been stated that $5 billion budget has been allocated to build the mega project. According to the report by Ethiopian News Agency, the Airport City mega project is expected to be completed within 5 years. Mesfin Tasso, CEO of the Ethiopian Airlines Group, told ENA that the airline has completed a study through a company in France to start the construction. Mesfin said a tender will be issued to the companies that will design the project, and it will start construction after the completion of the preparatory work in the current fiscal year. The government of Ethiopia has been undertaking a wide range of activities to create favorable investment climate for foreign companies interested to tap burgeoning opportunities in the country. Revised proclamation has been put in place and in-depth deliberations are being held with members of the diplomatic community based in Addis Ababa to discuss on ways to improve the investment climate. With regards to this, Ethiopian Investment Commission Commissioner met with Belgium Ambassador to Ethiopia, Stefan Thies, to discuss issues of strengthening investment partnerships and working jointly to promote opportunities in Ethiopia. On the occasion, Commissioner Lelise Neme reiterated the commitment of the Ethiopian government to improve the investment climate to increase foreign direct investment flow. The Tullu Moye geothermal project in Ethiopia is set to receive new funding in the form of a $10 million reimbursable grant from the Sustainable Energy Fund for Africa. The grant was approved by the Board of Directors of the African Development Bank to support the geothermal project drilling program, according to the report by Think Geoenergy. The grant will complement the existing risk mitigation facilities that have previously applied to the Tullu Moye project. The Tullu Moye geothermal project by Tullu Moye Geothermal Operations has an estimated total capacity of 150 megawatts. It will be developed in 2 phases. Phase 1, 250 megawatts. Phase 2, 100 megawatts.
ሌብነት የኢኮኖሚ ነቀዝ ነው፣ የእድገት ነቀርሳ ነው። የገጠመንን ሀገራዊ ፈተና የገጠመን ሀገራዊ ችግር እንደ እድል የወሰዱ ሰዎች ቀይ መስመር ያልነውን ሌብነት ቀይ ምንጣፍ አድርገውታል። ሳይሰሩ የሚበሉ ነበር ድሮ። አሁን ሳይሰሩ የሚበሉ አይደለም፣ የሚሰራ የሚበሉ። የሚሰራውን ሰው መርጠው ይበላሉ፣ ሰው እንዳይሰራ። ሌባ ከዚህ ቀደም እንዳልኩት ቤት ይሰራ ይሆናል እንጂ ሀገር አይኖረውም። በሌብነት ቤት እንጂ ሀገር አይገነባም። ሀገር አልባ ቤት ደግሞ ዘላቂ አይሆንም። የሆነ ሆኖ በስራ አስፈጻሚ ተወያይተንበታል። ሀገራዊ ኮሚቴ አቋቁመን ጥናት እያጠናን እንገኛለን። የተከበረው ምክር ቤት መላው የኢትዮጵያ ሕዝብ ለዚህ ፐርፐዝ ብቻ የተዘጋጁ ስልኮች አሉ፣ ቢሮዎች አሉ። መረጃ ሰነድ በማቀበል ቢያንስ ባናጠፋ እንኳን ሌብነትን አንገት እንድናስደፋ በጋራ እንስራ።
The ECA Expo 2022 has been launched at the UNECA Hall in Addis Ababa under the theme Ideas to Action. Opening the three-day ECA Expo 2022, the acting executive secretary Antonio Pedro said the strategic role of the African continent needs to evolve in equal measures to match the continent's current and future demands as we strive to support the member states to realize the 2030 Sustainable Development Goals and Agenda 2063 goals. Shagao Yamato has the following report.
The ECA Expo 2022, aiming to celebrate ECA's achievements in the past 3 years while identifying potential areas of synergy, has been launched at ECA Hall in Addis Ababa. Opening the three-day ECA Expo 2022, the acting executive secretary Antonio Pedro underscored that Africa requires new sets of skills and forms of partnership to match the continent's current and future demands as the Commission strives to support the member states to realize the 2030 Sustainable Development Goals and Agenda 2063.
What is ECA's strategic role as these needs evolve, as the challenges multiply? What is it that we can offer as solutions to help our continent, our member states, to navigate all of this space? And in the process, achieving Sustainable Development Goals and, of course, Agenda 2063. So this complexity and dynamism of the opportunities and challenges facing the continent present a further challenge for decision makers, tasked with formulating strategies and policies that effectively address interconnected and interdependent problems. We need to acknowledge that the continent's demands are increasingly becoming more complex in nature and will require new sets of skills and forms of partnerships. And this is why this Expo becomes important.
The Expo showcases tangible and non-tangible products that span 3 years of hard work from dedicated ECA staff and partners within and outside the continent from divisions and sub-regional offices.
The divisions and sub-regional offices will showcase achievements in diverse areas, ranging from innovative financing mechanisms to bridge the climate finance gap, fiscal and monetary policy reforms to respond to the tightening fiscal space and address debt vulnerability, legal, institutional, and policy reforms to foster private sector engagement in the energy, infrastructure, agribusiness, to name a few.
Here we have a lot of work that has been presented from all the sub-programs. We have 9 sub-programs, including the sub-regional offices and EDEP. So we have 22 booths. Each of the booths are representing both the substantive, which we call the sub-program work, and a lot of the work that we have there is the achievements, the success stories over the past 3 years in form of digital materials. We have videos.
The Technology and Climate Change Subdivision has achieved remarkable results in preparing digital identity and supporting artificial intelligence and climate resilience in Africa.
We have been focusing, for example, on digital identity. So we have worked with Ethiopia that has put in place a new law on digital identity. We have also been focusing on training and been delivering African coding camps for young women and girls. That's in the technology space, and where we have also supported the Regional Center on Artificial Intelligence, and we are supporting as well the Global Summit on the African Summit on Cybersecurity. And then in the climate space, we have been supporting countries to deliver on their nationally determined contributions. We have also been supporting research on climate in Africa, as well as training for negotiators on climate change.
The 3-day ECA Expo 2022 showcases diverse products, tangible and non-tangible, from divisions and sub-regional offices.
U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken stressed the importance of partnerships in remarks to an audience of entrepreneurs and innovators at the State Department Monday evening. However, some Africans criticized the reliability of U.S.-Africa relations. Tigist Arnesa has more from Africa News.
The U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken stressed the importance of partnership in remarks to an audience of entrepreneurs and innovators at the State Department Monday. Blinken was also meeting African leaders where he reiterated for the need to incorporate more private investments on the continent.
Have a huge stake in the success of African innovators because when they're empowered to reach their full potential, It's good for the region, it's good for the continent, it's good for the world, it's good for America. The U.S. private sector already invests more than $4 in Africa for every dollar that our government allocates to the region in foreign assistance, and it wants to do more. That's the objective of our Office of Global Partnerships, which will take a U.S. private sector delegation to Ghana in February.
The U.S. is now facing stiff competition from Russia and China that have in recent years increased their partnership with Africa. Critics point out an inconsistent U.S.-Africa relations.
The challenge is the U.S. relationship or engagement with Africa is not always consistent. It changes from administration to administration. It depends on who controls the White House, who controls Congress. And that makes it difficult sometimes for Africans to understand who exactly are we dealing with. So it raises some question on the reliability of the United States as a partner.
The Biden administration is hoping to rekindle America's relationship with Africa during the U.S.-Africa Leaders Summit.